Doors in horror games are quite a unique breed. No other genre of game treats doors in the way some of the more critically acclaimed horror games do. Doors in other game genres are usually a simple button prompt, a way from getting a point A to B with very little thought or consideration put into them. Horror games, however, make use of this simple act of opening a door to change it from a required action to further your progress in the game, to an action that builds tension and fear in the player by simply looking at and then proceeding to open it. One of the more prolific and iconic uses of doors in horror games is that of the series Resident Evil. So iconic, in fact, if you couldn't already tell, I used one of its doors in the intro of this video. Its use of doors is synonymous with the franchise, or at least the earlier games in the Resident Evil franchise. So let's boil down how the doors are actually used.
Resident Evil.
Most of the Resident Evil games from the PS1 and most of the PS2 era, not that one, have used doors to build tension. They do so by treating the doors similar to most games, treating their doors as a simple obstacle to get to the next area. As doors are, but with a twist. The slow build-up, the silence and absence of sound, until the slow winding creak of the door reveals the safe room. In the earlier Resident Evil games, players who are unfamiliar with the Spencer Mansion or Raccoon City, the doors inspire a feeling of unhindered dread and tension. They force you into literal darkness and into something mysterious that could be putting you in more danger or closer towards safety. But the door itself acts as a stopgap between areas, as a loading screen, while also doubling as a moment of respite from danger while also possibly introducing you to more danger in the next room. It's really well accomplished and really well thought out. The game also breaks its rules of making the doors an ambient transition by sometimes making it so zombies can come through these doors, like in RE1's kitchen or the roof of the Resident Evil 2 police department. But unfortunately, this awesome usage of doors in the Resident Evil franchise didn't stay a part of the series for as long as I wanted. When we get to the PS2, more specifically Resident Evil 4, because Code Veronica and Outbreak File 1 and 2 were still doing this sort of stuff with the doors, the use of doors lose their thought. Doors are simple loading screens, or just a simple prompt that can be used as a weapon, if you're a child like Ashley here. And this continues throughout the franchise, making doors shadows of their former selves. Tap the button once to open slowly, tap it twice to open it fast. RE7s are okay, but I don't really care for it too much, so let's talk about some other good examples of video game entryways.
Silent Hill.
Quick mention to a franchise that is always associated with Resident Evil, as they both started as major hits during the PS1 era and are both pretty cool and pretty sick in my opinion. Silent Hill. Silent Hill's doors are usually broken, unusable, or have nothing inside because fuck actually rendering a room, am I right? Silent Hill's door transitions are pretty simplistic, but still give off the air that they were carefully thought about or were just a lucky result of the game's great sound design. Nothing much to say, it's just a fade to black, but the audio of the creaking door and the lack of music is just...
Mamma mia!
Also, since we're talking about doors, I feel like I have to mention the door in Silent Hill 4. They look pretty sick. Not much to say about it though, apart from the fact that the person who designed it probably wears a wallet chain and padlock necklace, and also may have helped with Shadows of the Damned's door here. The most well known of horror doors is the previously mentioned RE series, but let's go a couple years in the future to one of my other favourite franchises, which is Dead Space.
Dead Space.
When talking about the doors in Dead Space, there are two things you have to talk about: the sound design and the question. The sounds the Dead Space doors make are so fucking industrial and visceral. Wink wink, get it? I'm trying to say they hit you like a sledgehammer. Got him. So yeah, they're really fucking loud is what I'm trying to say. They're heavy and booming, and that's probably why they take so fucking long to open. The doors slowly opening also, builds tension and shit like I mentioned with the previous doors, as well as causing a few maybe undeserved deaths, because apparently elevators in Dead Space open as quickly as the killing of the first flame in Dark Souls. Second thing to talk about, which I love and hate about Dead Space's doors, is that the doors get fucking smart with you. They always ask you, open? Question mark? As if to say, are you sure, dude? Are you sure? You look kind of feeble, man. Think you can beat whatever's on the other side of me? Open. I don't know. Fuck it. What could go wrong?
What in God's name are you doing? Back off, you crazy bitch!
Please give me huggy wuggies. Ooh, woo.
What the fuck are you saying?
So yeah, I love that the game makes you ponder whether or not you can do this a little bit. Can I kill what's inside there? Do I have enough ammo? Have I got enough heals? When did I last save? Is the oven still on? But on the flip side, once you've gone through enough doors, you just want to open a door with the press of the X button once instead of twice. Let's skip a little bit further in time to a game I find relatively mediocre but still gets me nostalgic sometimes.
Five Nights at Freddy's, that's where I wanna be.
Yes, it's time for you to dislike the video because FNAF is too epic for you, and no, I'm not 12. So the reason I mentioned Five Nights at Freddy's is due to the fact that the doors are so integral to its gameplay, that they were the only way to protect yourself from the animatronics. Without the doors, you die. Simple as that. If you don't put the doors down, this furry bait is going to play grab ass with you. So the doors are your only means of survival, and as a result, are your greatest weapon, as well as your greatest weakness, as they are powered by a battery or some shit for some reason. They aren't connected to the national grid, so you can only use the doors so much. Good doors. Sure would be a shame if we never fucking use them again. Oh no. The doors also sound kinda chunky, which is nice, and as they're required to beat the game, you know, have to mention them. Let's talk about one more example before I go on a little rant about how all fucking doors work in horror games.
Darkwood.
Darkwood. This Slav bootleg of Terraria is a sight to behold. But let's talk about the doors in the game. To do so, I have to talk about the game's sight system, which isn't ridiculously new or anything, it's still kinda cool though. To keep it simple, the only way you can see shit is if you look at it. Duh, right? But as this is a top-down game, you have a cone of sight. If it's not in the cone zone, you don't know if you're alone. Making it so, you have to creepishly creak and peek to see if there's Lovecraftian horror behind the door, or literally nothing. Plus, the nice slow creak sounds make you tighten your sphincter a little bit, so yeah, good doors.
What makes a good horror door?
I'm going to stop being so all over the place now, and talk about what makes a horror game's use of doors actually good and overall memorable. One thing that all the examples of doors I've given have is their use of sound. I believe a door's slow creak combined with a lack of music tends to build a lot of tension. There are also, of course, outliers to this, such as with the case with Dead Space, as it has loud, booming industrial doors which help induce panic as well as raise tension. This makes sense given Dead Space's faster gameplay pace for a survival horror game. How does the door sound? So sound. The sound of the doors. Well, what else? Sometimes how they look. There are of course outliers with this as well, but let me explain a bit. I'm not saying that you should remember how every door in the Resident Evil franchise looks. I do, but that's irrelevant. When I say how it looks, I mean in the regards of whether or not the door is memorable or has a feature that all doors in the game have. For example, yet again, with Dead Space's case, all doors ask you if you want to enter, don't they? They do so with these big blue blocks of text, which are used on most of the doors in the game, making each door have the same iconography and making the doors memorable. In Resident Evil's case, it's not so much that every door is memorable, it's the way that the doors are presented that is memorable, with the infinite void being filled with nothing but the door, making the way the doors are presented to the player very memorable, instead of the doors themselves. How did the doors look? Sounds, looks / presentation, and mechanical application. When I say this, I mean, how do you open the door itself? Do you simply push the button and wait at a loading screen filled with text like most RPGs? Or is it like Resident Evil, where you push the button once and wait at the door as it slowly reveals the next location? Do you push the button once, then to be asked if you're sure, and must decide whether or not you'll push the button twice to open it, like the doors in the ever beautiful Dead Space? Do you push the button once as you wait in horror as these Tumblr furries approach you from the darkness like in Five Nights at Freddy's? Do you click the action key to open the door slightly as you then slowly move forward to try and get a peek of what's outside like in Darkwood? How do you open the door? These are the things that I feel make a door in a horror game memorable and overall impactful, and how I usually rate the doors and how they are used to great effect, if any effect in a horror game. Fucking hell. It feels like as the years have gone by though, most horror games have overlooked the use of the door. Even the Resident Evil franchise itself has done so. With the more recent Resident Evil remakes and RE7, the RE1 remake excluded as it did DAWs correctly. But with the more recent Resident Evils, they forgot everything about the game's previous use of the DAW, besides their playing card iconography, despite the use of the DAW being synonymous with the Resident Evil franchise. Well, one thing they did keep consistent is the durability of the DAWs in the Resident Evil franchise. Resident Evil 7s aren't anything too special, but given the change to a first-person perspective, there wasn't too much that they could do to make the DAW special, but I still don't mind them, as they have a good nice creak, and you also have to slowly peek past them like the DAWs in Darkwoods, but just from a first-person perspective. So yeah, in closing, PS1 Resident Evil DAWs and Dead Space DAWs are sick as fuck, and I still think that thigh highs are superior to socks.
Now, I'm motivated.
Sweet. Groovy.
I would fuck my legs, I'm not even gonna lie.